live from Utah's news leader. Fox 13's Good Day Utah Weekend Edition starts right now.
Good morning. Just about 8 o'clock this morning for Good Day Utah Weekend. We're glad you're here with us. Amy Nay, and we've got meteorologist Dave Vignani filling in for Breck this morning.
Yeah, like I said, good morning. Yeah, I think Breck was the smart one. He went someplace cooler, right?
Well, then when the weatherman knows the weather, he knows when it's time to get out of town.
He knows how to get out, yeah. We're gearing up for the hottest weather we've had so far this year. So if you thought it was baking hot yesterday, Mother Nature's going to crank the temperature up a little higher, but at least we're off to a beautiful start, as you can see by this live look from the Old Mill camera over toward the Ochre Mountains. We've got fair skies across Utah with comfortable temperatures right now, which you definitely want to get out and take advantage of while you can, because this afternoon, unless you're in the water, you're not going to want to be outside. Temperature is currently 78 degrees in Salt Lake City. That's one of the warmer readings on the map. A lot of places are still hovering in the 60s, but you have made it up to 61 in Logan, even though you're in the 50s much of the morning up to this point. It's 81 currently in St. George. And some of these readings in the north are several degrees higher than they were 24 hours ago. So it already feels like it's going to be baking hot out there. And it will be very shortly. In fact, the temperature will be climbing up into the mid-90s by lunchtime. Then we'll make it into the triple digits this afternoon. In fact, very likely even into record territory as the temperature climbs higher than yesterday. We're not the only ones. You can see there are heat advisories and warnings in effect, or at least going into effect across the majority of the West and the majority of Utah today. With that being the case, heat-related illness becomes even more likely than the last couple of days, so don't overexert yourself. Drink plenty of water, even if you're not thirsty. And coming up in the full forecast, we'll take a look at how high those temperatures will climb today. Amy?
Thanks so much, Damon. We are continuing to talk about hot weather. Utahns are among millions of people across the U.S. in the grips of a dangerous heat wave that will last for days. Shelley Mulaski has the latest.
We're out here early trying to beat the heat.
Millions across the U.S. are still facing a weeks-long heat wave, and it's now intensifying. The brutal heat and dangerous temperatures are hammering the southwest U.S. throughout the weekend. Cities throughout the southwest are in triple digits, and by Sunday, temperatures in Death Valley, California could top 130 degrees.
This weekend, that dome of high pressure, which doesn't allow any rain showers or anything to cool down, the air sinks down and just heats up, and that's bringing hot desert air all the way into the southwest.
In Phoenix, Arizona, temperatures have reached 110 degrees every day this month, and this heat streak is expected to continue through at least Wednesday.
It's the hottest time of the year in the hottest places of the country, but even with that, these temperatures are 5, 10, even 15 degrees above average, and that's why it's a problem.
In the south, a heat advisory is in place from Texas to Alabama. In Texas, people have been dealing with dangerously hot temperatures for weeks.
It feels like if hot sauce could be felt without you having to taste it, and it got poured on my back.
Meanwhile, at least 8 states are under air quality alerts as smoke from Canada's wildfires returns to the northern plains and upper Midwest. Minneapolis and parts of Iowa will see the worst of the smoke on Saturday, with cities including Chicago, St. Louis, and Detroit seeing smoky skies on Sunday. Shelley Mulaski, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Back here at home, and a team of scientists and volunteers are trying to learn more about where the hottest parts of Salt Lake City are. Volunteers are assigned one of 10 specific routes to drive on with a probe on their car that records the temperature and humidity every second. The goal is to collect data and figure out which parts are the hottest and why, and then to come up with some solutions to try to help.
We'll identify those hottest areas and then try to find ways that we can cool them down or otherwise find relief for the people who live in and use those areas. So it might be planting trees, it might be tearing up concrete, maybe an opportunity for a splash pad, maybe there's a need for a cooling center.
The experts will start getting the data back in about 6 to 8 weeks with maps and figures. In the long term, the City and Community Council say they can use the analysis to guide design in infrastructure decisions. New this morning, one person in the hospital after a crash in West Valley City. It happened around 5 a.m. on Mountain View Corridor in 3500 South. Officials say the victim had to be cut out of their vehicle while they were hospitalized. We're told the injuries are not life-threatening. Lanes in this road were blocked for a time while police investigated. That has since been cleared up. Taylorsville police say 2 suspects were arrested overnight after a chase with officers led to a crash. This happened around midnight. Officers were pursuing a stolen vehicle with the help of a UHP helicopter. Police stopped the chase after the suspects drove into oncoming traffic. The suspects later collided with a car just around 13th West and 70th South in West Jordan. The 2 suspects were arrested and taken to the hospital with minor injuries. The occupants of the other car involved were told were not injured. Well, check this out. A semi carrying apples caught fire on I-84 in Morgan County yesterday. The Mountain Green Fire Protection District posted these pictures to Facebook last night, saying that other drivers were trying to flag the truck driver down about the blaze. While the semi and the cargo of apples were both destroyed, the truck driver was thankfully able to escape without any injury, and the fire did not extend into the grass on the nearby hillside. Officials say if it did, it would have caused a significant fire in that area. Now, also in Morgan County, we are learning more about what led to a deadly motorcycle crash on I-84 last night. Utah Highway Patrol says this all happened around 7 o'clock. A motorcycle and a Porsche, both going eastbound on that roadway, when the motorcyclist ended up crashing into the Porsche after they were unable to stay in their lane through a curve. The motorcyclist was thrown off their bike, dying on the scene. Both directions of I-84 were closed last night while the crash was being investigated. A wildfire in southwest Washington County, just north of Hilldale, continuing to burn this morning. Utah Fire Authority says the Saddle Fire is currently 0% contained. We're told 2 structures are being threatened. So far, it has burned at least 20 acres. There are no evacuation orders at this time. We'll update you with more information as it becomes available. Happening tomorrow, a trial begins in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, for 6 members of a white supremacist group arrested near a Pride event. The defendants, including one from Utah, Cameron Pruitt, have pleaded not guilty to a misdemeanor count of conspiracy to riot. They face up to a year in jail if convicted. They were among 31 members of Patriot Front arrested in June of last year. There has been 1 conviction so far. Another Utah man, Alexander Sissenstein, pleaded guilty to disturbing the peace. He received suspended jail sentence and 2 years of unsupervised probation. Right now, the city of Francis, which is right near Camas, is asking people not to use water outdoors. They say because levels are critically low. The mayor says the city is working as quickly as possible to obtain temporary pumping from a new well. They hope to have that up and running by Monday. He says the issue isn't supply, it's the technology to pump the water into a new well, into the tank, and into people's homes. He adds that he knows it is inconvenient, but if people don't take it seriously, they will have a much bigger problem.
If we don't work together and we continue to water outside and we continue to water, in the middle of the day, things like that, then we run a real risk of waking up in the morning without enough water in the system to supply residents. And we don't have showers, we don't have bathrooms, we don't have a drink of water.
Well, the city is asking people not to use their outdoor water until Wednesday. This weekend, Salt Lake Community College's Sandy campus hosted the annual People's Great Salt Lake Summit. Now, advocates and experts came together to develop new ways to save the Great Salt Lake. Fox 13 spoke with Dina Steen about how the dwindling Great Salt Lake doesn't just impact people, but also wildlife.
There's also the potential for ecological collapse of the lake. Great Salt Lake is a place that over 330 bird species rely on. Over 10 million migratory birds a year travel through this area and depend on the lake.
Now, if you're interested in learning more about this annual event or any other future events to help save the Great Salt Lake, you can visit greatsaltlakesummit.org and sign up for their newsletter. And Fox 13 News is a part of the Great Salt Lake Collaborative. It's a group of local news outlets, academic groups, and community organizations calling attention to the Great Salt Lake and solutions to save it. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now to get more information on past stories and ways you can get involved in the future. We've got lots more coming up here on Good Day Utah Weekend. He's on a mission to prove that he has what it takes despite a challenging diagnosis. How one man is pushing back against the symptoms of multiple sclerosis.
If you thought it was hot yesterday, just wait till this afternoon. In fact, our average high this time of year is in the mid-90s, and we could be climbing about 10 degrees above that. That being the case, we could set a new record. We'll let you know how hot it'll get coming up after the break.
Glad to have you here with us this morning at 8:11 in the morning. A man is meeting an important anniversary in his life with a very ambitious goal. Forrest Sanders with our sister station in Nashville rides along for this story.
It's just a good time to kind of reflect on where I've been and where I plan on going. The Tour de France going in my ear. Listen to a couple hours of praise and worship, transfer over to Van Halen.
Riding through the day under a hot sun.
It's a lot of Gatorade.
You're catching Mark Fry in the middle of cycling for 125 miles. Now he's doing all the cycling here in Middle Tennessee, but let's put this in perspective. 125 miles is roughly like going all the way from Nashville to Jackson.
Just putting my trust in God and that He would see me through.
There's a reason for why Mark's doing this. Why 125 miles? Why now? That reason is from 25 years ago.
And had just some numbness and tingling in my right leg and knew that something wasn't right.
Mark was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
I thought about it probably 5-10 times a day. Biggest thing was, would I be able to walk my daughter down the aisle at her wedding? You just kind of go about your life and you can't change anything by doing nothing. So I try to do something.
That something became cycling. And with this exercise, his medications, his faith, the Tour de France and his earbuds, with the support of his family, Mark says he can take on those 125 miles.
Exactly 25 years ago today, I was diagnosed. I just thought it'd be fun to come out and do 25 miles for each year and then throw in an extra 100 just for the fun of it. So,
in the 25 years since that diagnosis, Mark's seen a lot of days that have made him so grateful. He did walk his daughter down the aisle.
No cane, no nothing. So I think I like to do this because not only does it give glory to God, but it also is an opportunity to encourage others. So whether it's MS or any other disease, I would say just keep fighting, never give up until you have to. And even then, keep going.
In Nashville, I'm Forrest Sanders reporting.
A little inspiration for all of us on this Sunday morning, and we might need it on a day like today because it's going to be hot. People might not be too thrilled when they get out there and feel just how hot it is a little later this afternoon, Damon.
Definitely. That's why you want to enjoy these cooler temperatures we have this morning. But of course, we're not the only ones who got this heat wave across much of the country. And in the west yesterday, temperature to our south in Phoenix climbed to 118. It was 113 in Vegas. It might be that hot in St. George this afternoon. Salt Lake City, we hit 97 degrees yesterday, and a lot of valleys were in the 90s, putting us actually pretty close to average for this time of year. But today, it'll climb even higher. In fact, our record is 103. We'll likely break that and set a new one. This morning, it's 78 degrees in Salt Lake City. A lot of valleys, though, are still hovering in the 60s. So, again, take advantage of that while you can. Temperature in St. George is currently 81. We've got high pressure dominating the weather pattern. It was centered over California yesterday. It's moving a little farther east over Nevada this morning. It'll slide over Utah later today, be along the border with Colorado tomorrow, keeping temperatures about as hot as what we're expecting this afternoon. But then by the middle of the week, actually by Monday night into Tuesday, it'll be shoved off a little farther to the east as a weak weather system moves by to our north. That'll send a weak dry cool front in Monday night, and behind it by Tuesday temperatures will drop, so that'll bring a little bit of relief, but not very much. It'll only be by a couple degrees. At the same time, with that high pressure drifting out of here, monsoon moisture will move in from the south, and that'll bring a slight chance of some high-based showers and thunderstorms, mainly along and over the mountains. If they drift over the valleys, that could bring some gusty winds, but even that's not very likely at this point. Now, this afternoon, we're expecting the temperature to climb all the way up to 105 degrees in Salt Lake City. So it is really going to be a scorcher out there, and that'll be the case across the majority of the state, with most valleys hovering in the triple digits. Even along the Wasatch Back, Park City, you're going to be in the low 90s. Try to head up into the Uintas to escape some of the heat. It'll even be in the low 80s up there. And in St. George, that temperature could be climbing all the way up to 113. Close to that tomorrow, dropping by Tuesday, but you're still going to be running several degrees above the triple digits, so the heat wave will continue through the rest of the coming week. And in northern Utah, partly cloudy, 103 tomorrow. Will barely drop out of the triple digits by Tuesday, but at least we'll be headed in the right direction. We'll be in the upper 90s most of the coming work week, and then back up to 102 for this coming Saturday.
Thanks so much. Coming up, it's been exactly 1 year since the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline was put into place. What the federal government wants to do to improve the service for all users. And Twitter isn't chirping a happy tune right now as income flow has fallen off from a key source. More on that story when we come back. National headlines for you this morning, and we've got another weekend of deadly violence that left communities reeling in Georgia and North Dakota to tell you about. Matt Napolitano has more details on these tragedies.
Investigations are underway this weekend into 2 deadly shootings. In Fargo, North Dakota, police are working with the FBI to figure out a motive after a suspect opened fire at the scene of a traffic accident. He killed a police officer and seriously injured 2 others before being fatally shot by police. A civilian was also shot. The Fargo Police Department remembering the slain officer, Jake Wallin.
Very smart, was very impressive as he went through the academy, and he was doing well out in field training as well. And it's just really a sad tragedy that he's no longer with us.
And in Hampton, Georgia, authorities are offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of 40-year-old Andre Longmore. Police say he shot and killed 4 people on Saturday, and 4 different crime scenes are under investigation. He's armed with a black handgun.
Call 911 if you see anyone that looks like or resembles this individual. Do not approach him. He is considered to be armed and dangerous.
Authorities are not releasing the names of the 3 men and 1 woman killed at this time.
This is a sad day in Hampton. It's not normal for us, and as a community, we will grieve together. As a police department, we will do everything in our power to ensure that the person is brought to justice.
A local resident telling our Fox affiliate that the library went into lockdown for several hours because of an active shooter, but officers say they are not disclosing where the incident took place. Matt Napolitano, Fox 13 News, Utah.
In Northwest Pennsylvania, escaped inmate Michael Burham is back in custody. He broke out of the Warren County prison more than a week ago. Police say a dog barking in an area not far from the prison alerted one of its owners yesterday afternoon. A man then encountered Burham and left with his wife, and they called police. Within 2 hours, he was back in custody. Authorities captured him in a wooded area.
I want to thank the residents of Warren County and the surrounding area for their patience through all of this. I know it was challenging for them. I know they were nervous. I know they were scared. But, they remained gracious to all of our people and were very, very helpful to all of us.
Police are now processing Burham and say he will not be returned to the Warren County prison. It's unclear where he will be held. He was jailed on burglary and kidnapping charges, also is a suspect in a murder. Investigators are still trying to determine if he had any help in his escape. Today marks 1 year since the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline became available. The latest data shows more people are calling the number than the harder to remember 10-digit number that was available previously. The U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services says the lifeline has been impacted by a national shortage of mental health professionals, and the focus is now on getting callers the help they need after they do contact 988.
And that's where we have to work hardest, is because we have to make sure that if someone is willing to say, I'm reaching out to you before I go in the wrong direction, that we can then follow up with the services that they need.
He says work is being done to help those most at risk for mental health struggles. That includes a pilot program for the LGBTQ+ community. When you call, you can signal that you're interested in hearing from someone who understands where you're coming from. In Money Watch, Twitter owner Elon Musk says the company is still bleeding money. Musk disclosed on Twitter the company has seen a 50% drop in advertising revenue, and it is carrying a heavy debt load. So at the moment, Twitter is operating with a negative cash flow. More than half of the top 1,000 advertisers on Twitter left after Musk took control of the company last year. That's according to market intelligence firm Sensor Tower. Besides a loss in advertising revenue, Twitter also is facing a challenge from Meta's new app called Thread. It has more than 100 million downloads less than a week after Threads debuted. Pilots with United Airlines have reached a tentative agreement with the airline on a new 4-year contract. The new deal will give pilots a substantial pay raise up to 40%. The Airline Pilots Association says the agreement also includes better retirement benefits, job security, and addresses quality of life issues. The union says the agreement ends a stalemate that lasted 4 years. Its 16,000 members still must approve the deal. As terrible as the pandemic was, one positive sign was the growth of charitable giving. Are Americans still in the mood to give? A look at that coming up. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday morning. I'm Amy Nay. Our top story right now is the dangerous heat wave that's going to get worse in the coming days. We want to check back in with Utah's Weather Authority meteorologist Damon Yanni, who's filling in for Breck this morning for all the details. Damon.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, we're gearing up for the hottest weather that we've had so far this year. One thing that's working in our favor here in Utah, as opposed to other parts of the West, is that we can escape pretty quickly up into the mountains where it looks and feels like springtime. Beautiful view of Huntington Reservoir. This photo sent in by Scott Taylor to Utah's Weather Authority Facebook group. Now this morning, temperatures have already climbed up into the upper 70s in Salt Lake City and Ogden at 74, Provo 72. Still pretty comfortable if you're heading out right now, and you definitely want to take advantage of this because by this afternoon it is really going to be baking hot with a strong ridge of high pressure continuing to dominate the weather patterns. So that keeps it dry. It'll be a beautiful day, but you won't want to be out enjoying it unless you're in the water this afternoon. Temperature is going to climb all the way up into the mid-90s by lunchtime, triple digits this afternoon. In fact, as early as 3 p.m., possibly up to 103. We're forecasting 105. That would set a new record for the day. It'll be pretty hot again tomorrow, but by Tuesday, the high pressure weakens. We'll get an improvement in air quality, and the temperatures will finally start to drop a little bit. We'll let you know how much coming up in the rest of the forecast. Amy?
Time right now for our Two Americas series. It's a closer look at the America you may know and the America you may not. Charity comes in all shapes and sizes. Money, goods, and time all equal one thing: someone taking care of someone else. This morning, Matt Pearl came across one organization that really thinks outside the box, the Pizza Box.
Chicago has always been kind of a social barometer of how the country is going, how big cities are going. People tend to say, oh, that's a nice neighborhood, we don't have those problems, but we do have those problems.
The work that fills the Chicago heart of John Carruthers is mainly confined to his kitchen.
Like, it's weird to say, but like I have regulars.
In this moment, he's putting Parmesan on a pizza. Every month, he uses his pies to connect beyond his kitchen and lift the neighborhoods of his city.
The one thing that I found through 2020 and Crust Fund is like how many good people with like meaningful like social hearts that there are.
2020 brought chaos and crisis. COVID-19 took lives in every town. It left many more in need. But according to Giving USA, 2020 also saw a record amount of charitable giving, a record broken in 2021, when contributions to charities cleared $500 billion.
COVID made visible a lot of the massive issues that we've had.
Noelle Sullivan teaches anthropology at Northwestern University. She says giving usually spikes during disasters. Here, it persisted because so did the pandemic.
You know, you don't have the things to do that sort of make life feel meaningful. So I think there's like a lot of different ways people were just spurned to try to help.
This is a wild amount of pizzas.
In the pandemic's early months, Carruthers says he spent too much time on the couch and not enough on his community. Then he started cooking.
August 2020 was the first time that we did this and haven't really stopped since then.
It's called Crust Fund. Once a month, Carruthers announces during the day he's selling pizzas that night. He gives them out in the alley behind his house. The cost is a suggested donation to a chosen charity.
That first month we raised $501, and that was the first of a lot to come. Like, we're over $50,000 now. We live in a quiet part of the north side. It's got a rap as kind of just a boring, khaki short dad neighborhood. That's why I live here. What you don't see is the Friendship Center is down on Lawrence Avenue here, and they have a line out the door.
Minutes from the alley where patrons donate dozens for pizzas.
Good afternoon, how are you doing?
Neighbors wait at a pantry.
Our lines started growing overnight.
Justin Block runs the Friendship Center. They've received several infusions from Crust Fund donations, and they've seen their community step up.
They're setting up monthly giving. They're sort of seeing the value of that philanthropy, and I think it's through mechanisms like Crust Fund Pizza that allow them to get connected.
The question is, will it hold? The day we visit Chicago, Giving USA releases its latest report, saying charitable giving declined in 2022. Affluent donors remain dominant, middle-income donors decreasing. But even then, giving is up from 2020. It's up 14% from before the pandemic. And in cases like Carruthers, it has led to the habit that fills his heart, from his kitchen through his community.
People have been so generous and amazing. They go above and beyond the suggested donation all the time almost. That's a feeling you can't bottle, but you can put it in a pizza box.
In Chicago, I'm Matt Pearl.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
You may have heard about this movie from friends or family, Sound of Freedom, starring big names, and it's proving to be a sleeper hit at the box office. We're going to take a look at what's behind its success. That's coming up.
And gearing up for the hottest weather we've had so far this year. In fact, this afternoon, temperatures not only climb well above average, but likely into record territory. We'll let you know how hot it'll get coming up after the break.
This week on Fox News Sunday, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy advancing a deeply partisan defense bill, setting up a showdown in the Senate over social issues. The future of the military taking center stage as President Biden returns from the NATO summit and signs an order that could send thousands of U.S. reservists to Europe. We'll sit down with NSC Communications Coordinator John Kirby to discuss our military's readiness and leadership on the world stage. And we'll get reaction from Senator Tom Cotton, a member of the Armed Services Committee, all this week on Fox News Sunday.
Some entertainment news right now here on Good Day Utah Weekend. Thanks for joining us this morning. The film Sound of Freedom, so released by Utah-based Angel Studios earlier this month, is making some waves and hauling in quite a bit in ticket sales. Scripps News national correspondent Amber Strong tells us more about it and the filmmakers tapping into that market.
Somewhere between movies about hunting Nazis and scary monsters, a surprise action thriller is making its way up the box office.
Because God's children are not for sale.
Sound of Freedom, the new film from Angel Studios, is based on the true story of Homeland Security agent Tim Ballard and his work to save sex trafficking victims.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
The concept isn't new. We've seen it before in movies like Taken.
I will find you. I will kill you.
It's the studio and fundraising techniques behind the film that's gaining attention, using a pay-it-forward method and encouraging audiences to buy tickets for others who may not be able to afford the film. That makes it hard to know how many people are actually seeing the movie. Still, the numbers don't lie, earning $40 million in its first week.
For independent movies right now, especially since the pandemic, is very, very strong. It's on pace to be one of the highest grossing indie films alongside films like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
The Christian team behind the flick, Angel Studios, isn't new to the genre or finding its niche among Christian audiences.
I say to you, love your enemies.
Part 3 of its series, The Chosen, earned $8 million opening week.
And they've built such a buy-in among fans of The Chosen, among evangelical groups, that when they hear Angel Studios is going to have a thing in theaters, they'll come out to see it.
Sound of Freedom lead Jim Caviezel is also popular in some conservative circles. and has a following from those who remember him from his role as Jesus Christ in 2004's The Passion of the Christ. Sound of Freedom has been panned by some critics who say it feeds into QAnon theories of underground child sex trafficking rings run by elites, and that Caviezel has also espoused similar views. Still, box office reporter Jeremy Fooster with The Wrap says there's a market for those willing to invest in faith-based entertainment.
If you release it in 2,800 theaters in select parts of the country and make it at the right price tag, you're going to get a really strong return on investment every time.
PureFlix, the streaming service aimed at faith and family, has found success with its religiously themed movies and love stories. The Great American Family Channel has taken on the movie market too, securing a deal with Hallmark favorite Candace Cameron Bure. And producer Tyler Perry got his start with the biblically themed Medea plays and movies, turning them into a billion-dollar success story.
We Baptists, we'll tear this church up. You better be glad you're at church. Jesus just saved your life. Hallelujah.
Now the film will have a bit more competition this weekend. The new Mission Impossible movie started earlier this week in theaters. Amber Strong, Scripps News.
The hottest club in Major League Soccer has been RSL. No losses since May and 9 straight results coming into last night. After a slow start, the Claret and Cobalt sat only 4 points off of first place St. Louis in the Western Conference race, entertaining the New York Red Bulls on Saturday, and we're not even 2 minutes in before magic happens at America First Field. His name is Diego Luna. Here's another look from Jefferson Savarino. Watch the celebration move. Breaking out the pregnant baby, I guess. Red with a first half look here to perhaps add another one. Game number 3 for Chicho Arango, but comes up high after the Danny Musovski feed. So 1-0 at the break, but that's okay because it was Luna's night. Just like the first, starts the second half with a gem. Musovski, a great lead, and the 19-year-old attacking midfielder does the rest. The Red Bulls did score, but so did Savarino. Seconds later, 3-1 the final. Salt Lake's 10th consecutive result. Not bad at all. And looking for some help from Minnesota to climb further up the standings. LAFC struck net first, but United FC matches 3 minutes later. Beautiful footwork by the home club in very tight spaces, eventually flicked in by Emmanuel Reynoso. This one ended in a 1-1 draw, allowing Real to move up another spot from 3rd to 2nd. The Bees doing another one in Albuquerque, sporting those retro Salt Lake Goals jerseys from decades back. Daniel Murphy scoring Jordan Adams to start. Jared Walsh later clears center for a 4-0 Salt Lake start. Base is full for the Isotopes in the 7th, but Jonathan Diaz with a clutch inning-ending K. Bees on the dub 4-2. And Lake Tahoe would be a nice place to be right now. The celebs are there, where Steph Curry may just win the American Century Championship thanks to this shot. 2 bounce and drop, a hole-in-one on 7. Does he look excited? Could have fooled me. Curry heads into today's final round with the lead. Morgan Vance with your morning sports report.
Well, 8:44 on Sunday morning, a live look from the Natural History Museum camera to downtown Salt Lake City. You can see a beautiful start to what will be a sizzling hot day, and as temperatures climb this afternoon, ozone levels on the rise, and once again unhealthy for sensitive groups. That'll be the case again tomorrow, so cutting back on the driving this afternoon and even mowing the lawn early in the day will really help out the air quality. But by Tuesday, there's going to be a little bit of improvement. We'll show you why in a second, but first we're starting out with a temperature of 78 degrees in Salt Lake City. Very comfortable in Logan Park City, where you're still hovering near 60. And once again, take advantage of these temperatures this afternoon. You're not going to want to be outside, even if you're in the water. Might not bring a lot of relief to you. We've got that strong ridge of high pressure that's going to be building in from Nevada, settling over Utah today and tomorrow. In fact, on Monday it'll be settling in along the border with Colorado, and that'll allow the temperatures in eastern Utah to climb even higher than what we're expecting this afternoon. But by the middle of the week, actually by Monday night into Tuesday, that moves off to the east of us. So as that ridge of high pressure weakens, temperatures will start to drop a little bit. But before that happens, it's going to be dangerously hot, with heat-related illness becoming even more likely. We've got some heat advisories and warnings already in effect over southwest and south central Utah that go into effect across much of the northern and western part of the state later this afternoon, as well as central Utah, and then again, that hotter weather expected in the east tomorrow. So make sure you're taking frequent breaks and drinking plenty of water, even if you're not thirsty. Now this afternoon, our forecast is for 105 degrees. Not only 10 degrees above normal for this time of year, but if we actually climb that high, we'll shatter the old record of 103 that was set back in 1960. Possibility of record heat in a lot of the valleys today. In fact, most of them will be up into the triple digits. St. George all the way up to 113 degrees. Luckily, by tomorrow, it'll start to drop, only by a degree, so no noticeable difference, but 5 degrees cooler or close to that on Tuesday, but you're still going to be hovering well above the century mark all the way through the rest of the week with not much relief in the mornings, only dropping down near 80 degrees. And in northern Utah, partly cloudy with a high of 103 tomorrow. We'll be in the upper 90s Tuesday and Wednesday. There might be some high base showers and thunderstorms over the mountains, but that would primarily be in central and southern Utah. And then by the end of the week, it gets even hotter. We'll be back into the triple digits by Saturday with a high of 102. So, Amy, summer weather in full swing here.
Oh, yes. I mean, it is so hot out there, right? So just be bracing for it. Drink water. Be ready for the hot, hot weather all across the state,
and
too.
we'll keep reminding folks because, yeah, it's really going to be rough to get through over the next several days.
All right. We've been warned. Damon, thank you. We'll be right back. Good morning. So glad you could join us for Good Day Utah weekend. I'm Amy Nay here alongside Utah's Weather Authority meteorologist Damon Yai. It's been fun to have you here this morning.
Yeah, it's been great to be here.
I know, even though you keep telling us about all this hot, hot weather. Yeah. All right, a quick programming note for you before we wrap things up here on our show. Fox 13 News Live at 5 will not air today due to Fox Sports coverage of soccer. We will be back for all of the day's news later tonight on Fox 13 News at 9. So join us there. And remember, we're always on at fox13now.com. So things got a little awkward when a police officer in Georgia realized the guy he pulled over for speeding was the county's chief deputy.
Uh-oh. Yeah, the driver was stopped in a two-lane road after going 61 miles per hour over the speed limit. Wow. Well, here's some of the exchange that took place in that traffic stop.
Hello? Guess who I just pulled over? Who? Yarborough. Who? Yarborough. Really? Yeah, the chief deputy driving a Dodge Charger, a souped-up Dodge Charger belongs to the sheriff's office. I just clocked this son of 96 in a 35.
Uh-oh.
Oh, my gosh.
Really? Yeah.
Well, did he give him the ticket?
I'm sure he did.
That's what we need to know. Yes, this all happened late last month. The citation was reduced to a warning, but we're told the local sheriff suspended the chief deputy for 5 days and docked his pay because of the severity of the issue. A spokesperson says the chief deputy was on duty at the time and didn't turn his lights on or his sirens. So I guess he was on a call.
Well, that's what he says, right? Okay, well, if you want to cross the state line into Wyoming or Idaho on that massive Powerball jackpot, you still have a chance.
Oh, hope you're lucky. Good luck out there.
Oh, you're doing this afternoon?
I don't know. Maybe that's where I need to go. Nobody won last night's drawing for the $875 million prize. Monday will be your next chance to claim the money, an estimated $900 million. It would be the third largest Powerball jackpot ever. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot, yeah. I think the Latter Day Saints are all headed up there, right? Well, with all the hot weather we're experiencing, it may just be the perfect day to celebrate National Ice Cream Day.
What a wonderful day to celebrate. On a hot day like today, retailers taking part include Dairy Queen, Whole Foods, Wendy's, Shake Shack, Baskin Robbins, just to name a few. Dairy Queen's telling customers to check the DQ app to get their special offer. Dippin' Dots giving away free mini cups at participating locations, and Whole Foods offering 25% off all ice cream prices for the next few days. Wendy's is giving a free Frosty to customers who purchase a small order of fries via Grubhub or Seamless, and Shake Shack with a special deal, buy one milkshake, get one free.
That is a good deal.
That's a pretty good deal. I was up at Deer Valley yesterday, and one of the kids was getting a milkshake, and it was apparently the hottest item up at the top of that spot, the milkshakes. They looked pretty good.
Well, I hope they don't sell out over the next couple of days. Right?
That might be a hot
item. We were talking
item.
about this earlier, and I was thinking, I thought that the price would go up with this heat wave. I mean, the entire country, right?
Right? Supply
Just
and
about.
demand.
Exactly.
Well, with these temperatures you're talking about, triple digits across the state.
Oh, and it's going to stay that way in the south, even though the worst of it will be this afternoon with the temperature temperature that will climb up to 113 in St. George, or at least come pretty close to that. We'll have heat warnings and advisories going into effect across the majority of the state today and tomorrow. So once again, dangerously hot. As temperatures are this high, heat-related illness becomes even more likely, so make sure you're drinking lots of water, even if you're not thirsty. Temperature will hover pretty close to that tomorrow in St. George, drop a little bit by Tuesday, but not very much relief. You're still going to be hovering well above the century mark all the way into this coming weekend, and not much relief during the morning hours either. In fact, only hovering near 80 degrees early in the day for much of the next several days. And in the the north, we're not lagging very far behind. If we hit 105 in St. George this afternoon, well, Salt Lake City, I keep thinking St. George because of these numbers, right? If we hit 105 in Salt Lake, we set a new record. Close to that tomorrow. We'll only drop into the upper 90s on Tuesday, and then by the end of the week, we'll be back in the triple digits. So
that is a hot 7-day forecast.
That is.
It really is.
Hottest one we've had in a while.
It is, and this is kind of the hottest stretch for us right now.
Well, hopefully it will be.
And then hopefully a little relief.